Well, today's video is going to be a story about perseverance, and I don't know if you can tell how covered in wet and mud I am, but it's a pretty good day. So let me go find a better spot and let's talk about it. Well, I guess this place is as good as any here on the tailgate of my truck with the Chugach Mountains behind me. Got an eagle right over here, its nest right over here. And I don't know if you can hear that on the camera, but there will be some small planes, little prop planes, some bush planes and stuff flying over. This is a really beautiful day, and a lot of these pilots are up flying around, so I can't help that when they fly. And there's some are flying directly overhead of me sometimes. So if you hear that, forgive me there. But back to what this video is about. It's about perseverance. And as wildlife photographers, you understand perseverance because a lot of times the animals don't cooperate, the weather doesn't cooperate, and sometimes you don't cooperate and the camera doesn't cooperate. Luckily, those last two things weren't today, but the first two were. Well, the first one was. As you can see, I have beautiful weather here. Beautiful blue skies with clouds intermittent in, and they kind of diffuse this light at times right now. So right now it's actually not behind a cloud, but a lot of the day it's been, so I don't have any shadows, which is just fantastic photography. So why perseverance? What's that about? Well, if you've done wildlife photography for any amount of time, you know perseverance is the name of the game. Because either one, the animals don't cooperate, the weather doesn't cooperate, which is not an issue today. Sometimes your equipment doesn't cooperate. Didn't have that problem, thankfully. And sometimes we don't cooperate with how we're trying to get our stuff done. I don't think that was a problem today either. The first one kind of was. So what does that mean today? Well, it means looking for something, finding the animals you're after. Doesn't always work out. So my first thing today was to run to the town of Whittier, which is about 45 minutes, probably an hour worth of drive time and getting through the tunnel. Depends if you can time it right. To get into Whittier. So it's about an hour to get down there. So I run down to Whittier, leaving at 7 in the morning, get down there about 8:30 after I stopped, got some breakfast, and got through the tunnel. And I go to look for my sandpipers, my oyster catchers, and ducks, and I'm hoping they're there, which I assume should be there. They're a week or so late already. Nothing. Not a duck. There's a few ducks, but not anything interesting, just some mallards and stuff like that. Seagulls, a couple eagles, that's it. No sandpipers, no oyster catchers, no pintails, none of the stuff I'm after. And it was windy, it was blowing about 30, and it was cold. It was about 25 degrees. Everything the weather said it wasn't going to be, it was. So nothing cooperated there, the animals or the weather. So now I'm 9 o'clock in the morning, 10 o'clock in the morning, and figuring out what I need to do because it's another hour, back to Anchorage, hour and a half. So I said, well, let's just try to make it a day. Let's head back towards Anchorage, see if we can find anything between here and there, the Doll sheep, or maybe some good, interesting seagull shots on some surf or something, or some eagles along the way. Head back all the way, nothing. No Doll sheep, no interesting birds, no nothing on the way back to Anchorage. Nothing around even by Potter's Marsh. I did see a couple swans, but they were farther out and not worth trying to get a picture of. So now I'm thinking, where do I go next? Well, luckily a few days ago I'd seen, some folks had seen snow geese and Sandhill Cranes up north of Anchorage, about an hour up in Palmer, Alaska. So that's why I decided to head, which I knew by the time I grabbed me some lunch and got to Palmer, I'd probably be looking at around 11:30, 12, which is really not a great time of day to be shooting for wildlife. Hope that plane's not too loud right there, because now you got a higher sun. But luckily today, as like right now is happening, sun's a little bit outside the cloud right now, but it has been in and out of some higher clouds, which kind of diffuses the light, which is what we really love as photographers, have diffused light on a sunny day. And as I came up into Palmer, I start driving different roads and stuff. So Palmer, to know about it, it's flanked by the Chugach Mountains, you see me around, a big horseshoe band all around the whole town. And this area is a real fertile valley, and there's a lot of farm fields here, plowed fields that were plowed last year before the snow came in, just like what's behind me. And so you have a lot of migratory birds that stop here on the way through. Of course, Canada geese, which a bunch just flew over and landed in this field over here by me. And then, of course, the snow geese and the Sandhill Cranes, the two things I'm looking for up here. And I knew they were here earlier in the week because I'd seen people that had taken pictures, friends of mine, and showed me those pictures that they're here. So I come up and I start driving the roads, as I was talking about. I don't see anything. No birds in probably the first 10, 12 miles I drive. And then eventually I find some birds and I get excited about in the field. Turns out to be Canada geese. Still beautiful birds, but not what I'm after. I can get those in Anchorage if I want them. They're everywhere. I'm driving and driving and driving, and I'm starting to think pintails. Sorry, a whole bunch is flying by me out that way. I'm trying to keep an eye on them, see where they go. But I don't see any. No snow geese, none whatsoever. No sandhills. All I'm seeing is Canada geese, and that's it. A few magpies, nothing. So I drive around for about 3 hours. And I finally said, oh, that's it. I'm not going to find them. I've drove about every road I can think of around. I'm not finding any of these birds. So I think my day is going to be a bust. I'm going to have to head back into Anchorage, get some dinner, and then call it a night. When I was getting closer back to the main road, still along some of these fields, I had both windows down, luckily, and I heard it. Sandhill crane call off to my right somewhere. Pull over the first road and stop, and I see 2 sandhill cranes going north of me, way off in the field. And I'm thinking, farther than I can see where they went. They've dropped behind trees. I lost them. So I think, at least I saw a couple. But then I heard more, and I heard more, and I started listening, and I kept hearing tons of birds, and I saw a huge flock flying over me. Then I saw another flock fly over. Some are going north, some are going south, some are going east, some are going west. We're kind of just going everywhere. But none of them are heading anywhere where I can get to find a road with my truck. Then finally I see a flock go over me to the south, to an area where I think I can get to. The road's blocked, and I'm thinking, let's go check. So I hop out of the truck, start down a road, because the road's blocked, I can't get there. Walk about 1.5 miles down the road till I find an open field, and there they are, those glorious little boogers, just honking, jumping, cackling, doing all the fun things that Sandhill cranes do. Just elated. So I slowly walk out in the field, try to parallel them and not to spook them or get them to scattering or walking, because they're like herding cattle. If you don't do it right, they'll just keep walking in front of you. So I finally got between the big curb, because we're in a horseshoe, got in the middle and laid down, hence why I'm muddy and dirty. Even though this looks like a plowed field or a field that just came out of the snow, the ground and everything is wet and damp, so I'm sinking in just a little bit in there, about 1/4 inch into the muck and the mud and that grass. It felt real good, trust me. But I loved it. Don't care, because Sandhill cranes are right in front of me. I love it. Beautiful bird. They're a fun bird, and they're a funny bird at times. The way they'll hop around and prance a little bit. These birds were fairly tolerant, but still fairly skittish, because these are the first ones that come in. When they get roosted, they've been in for a while, they kind of get a little more tolerant, everybody around them people. But these guys were a little skittish, so the ones on my right and the ones on my left started kind of walking. I could tell they were just like cattle moving that way. So I let them get set up, and then I kind of crawled a little more forward, not spooking them, not watching them, make sure they're not walking. And I just kept repeating this behavior until I'd get laid down, they get settled, and one would fly over me and bust me a little bit, squawk a little bit, get everybody on alert, they'd see me, and then they'd start walking again. So I just repeated that behavior over and over, and then eventually the flock split to each side, so I took the ones to the left, because they were going to be, I'm shooting backlit the whole time. So now I'm able to shoot them with their light in their face. So I start working this way. Every once in a while I'll feel them break off and take off, which is great. So I get those running takeoff shots. Just beautiful. But after a while, I'm laying out there in the muck and the mud for about an hour shooting these cranes. I'd forgotten all about the first part of this day. I'd forgotten about all the frustration of going to Whittier, being cold, not finding the birds I was really wanting to find that day, of driving to Anchorage and all the way up to Palmer and driving around for 3 or 4 hours not finding any bird besides Canada geese. But hearing that one Sandhill crane made my day. But by having success at the end of the day, it kind of washed away all that failure from the earlier day. And it's not really failure, it's just the way it works with wildlife. You're not always going to find them. And it wasn't just a phenomenal day, but it was a great day, because I love Sandhill cranes, and this first one I found for the year. And to be able to watch these guys jump and bob and weave and walk, just fantastic. And So we'll talk about a tip for the day, and we're going to talk about distance to your subject and temperature inversions and variance in the air or the ground. In my case, it was the ground today. So the farther away your subject is, we talked about this before, is where you're going to have more atmospheric distortion. It's either the wind, the light, the temperature. Think about a desert where you see those heat rays, or in a hot pavement, you'll see those little wafty rays of temperature inversion. And that's what I'm getting here today. It is only 40 degrees here today, but I have temperature inversion and waves. You'll see it in some of the video. You'll see that little bit of wave. So what does that mean? I talk about all the time about getting low, and getting down to that level. I'm trying to get that barrel, that lens, especially shooting birds, on the ground to get that foreground blur and background blur. But if that bird's farther away and you've got all this temperature inversion coming from the ground going up, your bird's going to be soft. I mean, what you'll see in some of these images, that bird's farther away, small in the frame, he looks a lot out of focus, or he looks soft, just because there's too much temperature inversion between him and me. Even though it locked onto him, there's too much between me and him, causing blur. It's like shooting through frosted glass, basically is what it's like. So you have to find a way to either close that distance or get that subject bigger in the frame, which means closer to you, which means less distance, and that. The same thing with why I use a teleconverter today. If I use a teleconverter today, I could have got the subject bigger in the frame, but he'd have been soft and out of focus, blurry, wavy, because he's too far away, too much temperature inversion between me and him. So if you got days like that where you're getting low, you're getting that bird, you'll see it in water sometimes. And if you see that, especially put it in video, you'll see it real good. You'll see that wave and that wobble. And what you'll notice, you have that going around your bird too. So what you know is, now if you try to shoot that bird at that distance, he's not going to be clean, he's not going to be clear, he's not going to be crisp. So you need to close your distance to that bird. A teleconverter is not going to help you. Yes, you'll fill the frame up more, but he's still too far away. So what I had to do in these cases, I had to either close my distance or just shoot video or not shoot that bird at that distance. So the birds that were really clean and clear are the ones that are probably about 2/3 or more in the size of the frame. If I could get them in there, I knew I was going to have a good semi-clear shot of that bird. It got much farther than that, I was going to get that inversion of the heat coming off that ground. And that was my problem today. So I had to overcome that by either getting my lens up off the ground, shooting down to the bird, or getting closer to the Sandhill Crane, which is not easy to do today. So yeah, guys, perseverance. Stay after it. Keep on the grind, keep working on it. Learn your animal, learn to behave your animal, learn what they feed on, where they roost, how they breed, where they're going to be. Keep your notes from the year before to find out about that. And this year we're behind, so I had a lot of problems, but I stayed after it. I stayed where I knew other birds were going to be, and it paid off. It doesn't always pay off the same day. It may be a day or two, it may be 3 days, but just stay after it. Keep that perseverance. You're going to find that animal, that subject you're after, you'll be able to shoot it, and enjoy your day and enjoy that animal. So guys, if you're enjoying the channel, you enjoyed this video, you enjoyed this little thing about perseverance, think about subscribing, liking, sharing, watch the video all the way through. If you want to support the channel monetarily to help us out to do these type of trips, think about becoming a member of the channel. It's low as $1 a month. But anyway, until next time, guys, in the next video, stay safe and go run that shutter.